Тема сегодняшнего выпуска не совсем хоккейная, но очень-очень острая. На протяжении недели в США проходят протесты против расизма и полицейского насилия. Мы должны любить и уважать друг друга независимо от того, как и кто выглядит. Нам нужно слушать и меняться, написал Александра Овечкин в своем твиттер-аккаунте. Никита Задоров также высказался против расизма и насилия на улицах США. А я решила поговорить с моим коллегой из Вашингтона, журналистом авторитетного издания The Athletic Тариком Эль-Баширом. In Russia, everyone worries about the situation in the United States after George Floyd's death. What about DC? How's everything there now?
Well, if you've been watching television, there have been some protests the past 5 or 6 nights in Washington. Very loud protests, some violence. They've been in front of the White House. The protesters, for the most part, from what I've seen on TV, they've been peaceful. But when they're provoked, it kind of turns into there's some violence. And people in this country, especially black people and minorities, they're angry about how they've been treated by the police for so long.
Yeah.
And everyone saw what happened to George Floyd, and that was just the spark that they needed to kind of express some of that anger. And I don't know where it's going to go from here. But I think they took a step in the right direction by arresting the officer who put his knee on Floyd's neck. But there were still 3 other officers there, and I think some of the anger you're seeing now is because those 3 officers are still out there. They were complicit with what happened. So, this country has a long history with what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And I think the combination of what happened to George Floyd, what happened, in Central Park earlier that week, all of the police, related brutality issues for a few years, and then you throw in the coronavirus and 40 million people losing their jobs, and it just kind of, exploded.
It looks like the beginning of civil war. Do you feel, is it something big, or it's like we'll finish in a few days?
Look, I'm 45 years old. I've been in this country for all of my life. In Washington, D.C. for 43 of my 45 years. I was in New York City for 2 years. So I've seen it all. This is the worst I've seen. There have been protests before. There have been mass protests. There's been civil rights. There's marches and protests in the 60s. I was born in 1974. I didn't see that. So I can't really compare it to what happened in the 60s. But of my lifetime, this is the most concerned I've been about the future of our country. I think there are enough good people. I'm always an optimist. I think there are enough good people to get things back on track. But right now, it's pretty grim.
Yeah. And the New York Times says that Russia also takes part in those protests. Do you believe in such a theories, or they look silly to you?
I'll tell you this. I wouldn't dismiss it as silly. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, though. I don't believe in those things. I've been looking at the pictures this morning very, very carefully. And what I've seen is the protesters were a wide variety of people. It wasn't just black people from the inner city or white people from the suburbs. It was a combination of everybody. There was every kind of race you could think of was involved in those protests, peaceful and in some of the violent parts, the looting, some of the burning, setting fires, and some of those other things. For me to say that Russians are directly related, I don't think so. I don't buy that. To me, it looked like people who wanted to protest peacefully, and then there were some outside agitators, some people who didn't really care about George Floyd but wanted to cause anarchy and wanted to set fires, and they just saw an opportunity. Here's a protest. I'm going to go to the protest and just act out. And so I think, you combine all those things, and that's what you're seeing now.
Akim Aliu said that only the violence can help in this case. But what do you think? Isn't it wrong? Because how can you win peace through the violence?
Right. I mean, people are frustrated. People are frustrated, and they feel like they don't have a voice. No one is listening to them. Sometimes the only way for people to get people's attention, especially the people in power, is through violence. That said, you're right. It doesn't help. It doesn't start the conversation in the right way. If you look at people on Twitter today, you have people who are saying, we must make change. Then you have the people on the other side who are going, why are they burning their own city? This isn't helping their cause. So, I do understand what you're saying, and I don't think that, the peaceful protests, that's what we need more of. We need more leadership, we need more peaceful protests, and we need less looting. To me, it looks like a lot of looting is like, it's bad actors and instigators who really don't care about the George Floyd situation. It looks like they kind of parachuted in and just decided they were going to act bad.
This Akim Aliu's text, it was very loud in USA, yes? Because even here we all know about it and we all read it.
Yeah, it was. Everyone saw it. No one was able to just laugh it off. I think that it would have had a bigger impact had it happened during the hockey season. I mean, of course, there's no hockey right now, so maybe some people missed it, but it was a big discussion point for a long time. People are still talking about it. I mean, I was talking to a reporter today. We're still talking about it. So I think you look at the statements from several NHL players, both black and white, who spoke last night on Twitter, who spoke out about the protests and what's going on in our country right now. I think that's the starting of a conversation that's long overdue. It should have happened already, but I feel like maybe that conversation is going to begin, and maybe we can start some healing here.
Have you ever faced this problem in life or work by yourself or not?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I've never had violence. I've never had a violent interaction with a police officer, never. But there have been times when, I feel like I was treated differently. And I can tell you, as a black man in this country, when I'm driving and the lights go on behind you and a police officer is pulling you over, I mean, I get scared. So I've seen what happens sometimes. I get scared. I get nervous. I was telling my 16-year-old son the other day, I said, you have to, when you're around police officers, you have to be a little more cautious. Take your hood off. Put your hands up if you have to. I said, if you're gonna, if you feel like you're in danger, you need to be very careful. And that broke my heart to have that conversation with my 16-year-old son, but that's the reality in this country right now.
Ну а теперь самое время перейти к хорошим новостям. Я не забыла про конкурс розыгрыша шайбы Овечкина, и у нас есть победитель. Напомним, что НХЛ досрочно завершила регулярный чемпионат, а Саша в 9-й раз стал обладателем Моррис Ришар Трофи, при этом забив 48 шайб. Первым эту цифру угадал Игорь Иванов. Игорь, ты можешь связаться со мной в соцсетях для того, чтобы мы обсудили процесс передачи шайбы. Всем спасибо за внимание, не забывайте подписываться на канал и ставить лайк. С вами была Алена, пока-пока.